Hey, church family, I wanted to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement as we continue to pray for this coming election. Now, it was 1996 when I first embraced the grace of God by faith in Jesus Christ. But up until that point in time, I was a Democrat and I was fully on board with then President Bill Clinton. And one reason why is because I was impressed with his ability to smoke pot without actually inhaling. But seriously, my greatest concern at that point in time, well, it was connected to the idea that there might be a conservative president who would come along and rob women of their reproductive rights. Now, that terminology is very interesting because at first glance, the term reproductive rights, this would seem to refer to a woman's right to reproduce. And yet, when this terminology is used by those on the left, what they're actually referring to is a woman's right to not reproduce. This is actually a woman's right to end the life that she's already reproduced. So if they're going to be more honest about it, they shouldn't refer to it as reproduction rights, but instead, they should refer to the pro-choice position as fetus termination rights, because that would be a little more honest. Well, shortly after placing my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ back in 1996, I remember engaging in a conversation with a group of Christians about my pro-choice position. It was at that point in time when they presented me with a biblical argument for the pro-life position. They presented me with several scriptures and they helped me to see that, biblically speaking, life begins at conception. I went on to discover that the science actually supports this belief. As a matter of fact, when the egg of a woman joins together with the sperm of a man, their chromosomes are joined together, and this creates a new living cell. And that new living cell will begin to reproduce itself, and that living cell grows then into a baby. Well, that is unless the life of that cell is terminated. Biblically and scientifically speaking, life begins at conception. And beyond the joining together of the egg with the sperm, there is no other switch that gets flipped that turns this living cell into something other than what it's going to become. Well, as I began to come to grips with this reality, my political leaning on this topic shifted from pro-choice to pro-life. It's for this reason that I rushed right out and voted for Bush 43 back in November of 2000. But then, throughout his first term, I came to realize that he wasn't the pro-life advocate that I thought he was. It's for this reason that I started looking for other candidates. I started voting for third-party conservatives who I believe were actually taking a strong stand to protect the lives of the most vulnerable. What this means is I didn't vote for President Trump back in 2016. And though I didn't vote for this man, I've been surprised. I've been surprised to see how committed he actually is to the pro-life cause. You might not know this, but the Trump administration expanded the Mexico City policy, which is determined to stop the exportation of abortion around the world on the American dime. The president's Health and Human Services has also worked hard to end the taxpayer funding of the abortion industry. The HHS has also announced that it would not renew a major contract to fund research using the body parts of babies brutally killed in late-term abortions. President Trump also defeated a pro-abortion amendment, which would have increased funding for domestic organizations that promote abortion overseas. He also promised to veto any legislation that would weaken federal pro-life policies, which have proven to be a crucial deterrent to the pro-choice position. The Trump administration finalized a new rule that stops Obamacare's hidden abortion surcharge, and this provides transparency for the majority of Americans who are opposed to the use of tax dollars to pay for abortions. And let's not forget that President Trump has also appointed almost 200 conservative judges, which include Supreme Court Justices Neil Gorsuch, also Brett Kavanaugh, and after the Senate votes tonight, we can expect that Amy Coney Barrett will also be appointed to the Supreme Court. Without debate, President Trump has done more to advance the pro-life position than any American president since Roe v. Wade. And it's for this reason that I'm shocked. I'm shocked by the conservative pro-life Christians who are endorsing a pro-choice candidate simply because President Trump is a man with many failings. Now, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to talk you into voting for Trump. I'm not trying to encourage you to go vote for Trump. Like I've already said, I've been voting for third-party candidates who are conservative Christians for the past 4 terms. So So I can totally understand a Christian who's unwilling to vote for Trump because they refuse to compromise on the character of our nation's leaders. But what I can't understand is a pro-life Christian voting for a candidate who has continuously endorsed legislation that promotes the unjustified termination of unborn Americans. You know that during the 8 years of his vice presidency, 5 million unborn babies were aborted, not only with his approval, but also with the financial aid of taxes that we all were forced to pay. And while it's true that the Trump administration put an end to the policy that Obama and Biden introduced when they used Obamacare to expand the taxpayer funding of abortion, it's also true that Biden and Harris have promised to reinstate this policy so that every American ends up once again being forced to financially support the termination of unborn babies. This is reprehensible. And not only that, but every conservative Christian should be absolutely appalled, even horrified by this political promise. Simply put, a vote for Biden is a vote for the taxpayer funding of abortion. Listen, if you're a Christian and you feel like you can't vote for Trump because of all of his moral failings, well, then I encourage you, apply the same standard to the pro-choice candidate who has literally promised to once again force every American to financially support the abortion industry, both here in America as well as abroad. Christian, listen, we can't support this when we can't vote for this. The nation that sheds the blood of the innocent will eventually find ourselves under the judgment of God. Therefore, I encourage every Christian, let's vote for pro-life politicians. I'm not telling you which ones to vote for. There are third-party candidates if you're more comfortable with that, but we cannot vote for pro-choice politicians. Let's vote for pro-life politicians who are truly dedicated to protecting every unborn baby. And with this as the goal, let's continue fighting the good fight of faith, all for the glory of God.